The day he walked out, he did not even close the door gently. He let it slam, and that sound echoed in the small kitchen long after his footsteps disappeared down the street. She stood there with a dish towel in her hands, 3 children watching from the hallway, and a silence so heavy it felt like the air had turned to stone. He had chosen someone younger, someone brighter, someone who did not carry bills in her apron pocket or exhaustion under her eyes. He left behind debts, unpaid rent, and 3 little hearts that did not understand why their father no longer kissed them goodnight. He was powerful in their town, respected, well-connected, always confident, the kind of man people admired without asking too many questions. When he announced he was leaving, some even said she should have tried harder. She did not cry in front of him. She did not beg. She simply nodded once, as if accepting a verdict she had no power to appeal. That night, when the children finally slept, she sat at the kitchen table staring at the stack of bills, her hand resting against her cheek, her eyes dry but empty. The sadness was quiet but deep, like cold water slowly rising around her ankles. She felt humiliated, abandoned, and small. Neighbors whispered. Friends stopped visiting as often. The landlord knocked twice in 1 week. She sold her wedding ring to pay for groceries. Helplessness wrapped around her in those first months. She had no degree, no savings, no family nearby. Just 3 children who needed shoes, food, and answers she could not give. She worked wherever she could, cleaning houses in the morning, washing dishes at night. Sometimes she skipped dinner so the children could eat more. She never complained. She listened when they cried. She held them when they asked if Daddy was coming back. She would smile softly and say, "Not today." Inside, though, she felt like she was drowning slowly, quietly, without anyone noticing. He, meanwhile, posted pictures online, smiling beside his new wife, traveling, buying a new car, attending business events. People congratulated him. They called him brave for choosing happiness. Each time she saw his face in a photo shared by someone else, her chest tightened, not with jealousy, but with a painful reminder that he had walked away without consequence. For a while, it seemed like injustice had won. But even in that darkness, something small began to grow. It was not anger. It was not revenge. It was a quiet hope, almost invisible at first. One evening, while cleaning an office, she noticed an old computer left near the trash. She asked if she could take it. It barely worked, but it turned on. After the children slept, she began teaching herself basic accounting through free online lessons. She had always been good with numbers. She just never had the chance to prove it. At first she was tired, her eyes burning from long days, but she kept going. Not because she believed success was guaranteed, but because doing nothing felt worse. Weeks turned into months. She found a part-time job helping a small shop owner organize receipts. She worked carefully, quietly, without demanding praise. The owner noticed. He recommended her to a friend. She began taking small freelance bookkeeping tasks at night. The money was not much, but it was steady. She paid off one debt. Then another. The landlord stopped knocking. The children began to laugh more. Helplessness slowly loosened its grip. She did not rush. She did not boast. She practiced patience the way some people practice prayer. There were setbacks. A client refused to pay once. The car broke down. One child got sick and hospital bills returned like ghosts from the past. She sat at the same kitchen table many nights, exhausted, staring at numbers that refused to balance. But she never cursed him. She never called to accuse him. She built her strength in silence. Over time, her reputation grew. She became known as reliable, honest, careful. A local company hired her as a junior accountant. It was the first time in years she bought something new for herself, a simple blue dress for work. When she looked in the mirror, she did not see the abandoned wife anymore. She saw someone rebuilding brick by brick. 5 years passed faster than she expected. The children grew taller. The debts disappeared one by one. She saved enough to move into a modest but bright apartment. There was a small balcony where they placed plants. On weekends, they ate pancakes and laughed about silly things. She rarely thought about him anymore. He, however, had begun to feel cracks in his perfect life. Business deals failed. The younger wife discovered that charm does not replace character. Their glamorous photos became less frequent. Investors started pulling back. He still carried himself with arrogance, but the shine had faded. One afternoon, he was invited to a financial conference in the city. He agreed, hoping to secure new partnerships. He walked into the hall wearing an expensive suit, rehearsing confident lines in his head. And then he saw her name on the program board. She was listed as the keynote financial consultant for a growing regional firm. At first he thought it must be another woman with the same name. But when she stepped onto the stage, calm and composed, the room quieted. She wore a simple blue suit, her hair neatly tied back, her posture steady. She spoke clearly about resilience in small businesses, about responsible growth, about rebuilding after loss. She did not mention him. She did not mention betrayal. She spoke about discipline and patience. He felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Around him, people listened with respect. Some took notes. When she finished, the applause was long and genuine. He did not clap at first. He just stared. After the session, he saw 3 teenagers run toward her from the back of the hall. Their faces were bright, proud. She hugged them, one by one. They were taller now, stronger, confident. He froze. 5 years ago, he had left a broken woman in a dim kitchen. Now he stood in a bright conference hall watching a woman who had rebuilt her world without asking him for anything. He approached slowly, unsure of his own steps. She noticed him. For a brief second, their eyes met, and in that look there was no hatred, no bitterness, only distance. He opened his mouth, perhaps to apologize, perhaps to explain. But the words felt small. She smiled politely, the way one greets an old acquaintance, and introduced him to her colleagues simply as someone she used to know. That was all. No accusations. No drama. Just truth. The children looked at him curiously, not with longing, not with anger, just with understanding that he had chosen a different path long ago. In that moment, he realized that power is not measured by who you can leave behind, but by who stands beside you when everything collapses. He had believed himself untouchable. He had believed she would always remain in the shadow of his decision. Instead, she had stepped into her own light quietly, patiently, without revenge. The justice was not loud. There was no public humiliation. There were no harsh words. The justice was in the contrast. He stood there with failing deals and fading influence. She stood there respected, stable, surrounded by children who admired her strength. He finally whispered that he was sorry. She listened, nodded once, and said she hoped he would find peace. Then she turned back to her colleagues, discussing future projects, her voice steady and warm. As he walked away, he felt smaller than he ever had during those 5 years. Not because she insulted him, but because she did not need to. Outside the conference hall, the city moved as usual. Cars passed. People hurried. Life continued. She stepped into the sunlight with her children, their laughter filling the air. The sadness that once lived in her kitchen had transformed into quiet dignity. The helplessness had faded into strength. The hope she once protected like a fragile flame had grown into something steady and bright. Patience had carried her through nights of doubt. And justice had arrived, not as revenge, but as undeniable proof that being left behind does not mean being defeated. He had left with arrogance. 5 years later, he saw what he had lost, and for the first time, he truly understood.